ABC News Close-Up. Women in prison.
Prisons are supposed to correct and protect. Correct the offender, protect the citizen. Yet when the majority of these women get out of prison, they will commit new crimes, go back to prison. Why? Although it is known that extended solitary confinement can drive people insane, women are still being kept isolated as punishment for rule violations. Why? While tight control and security are constantly being enforced, women often have to be armed for their own protection. Why? The Federal Reformatory for Women at Alderson, West Virginia. The Los Angeles County Jail for Women. The State Reformatory for Women at Marysville, Ohio. With the cooperation of the authorities, ABC News took its cameras into these three institutions. Although they operate on different levels and are set up for different jobs, and although they may look pretty, they all have certain routines, practices, and abuses not apparent on the surface. It is this uniformity which we have edited into a composite picture of women in prison. Women's prisons are often seen as models for prison reform. And tonight we will look at some of the best of women's prisons and ask, what are they like? Do they protect? Do they correct? Does confinement work?
You see how the uniform looks? That's the way it makes me feel. A little box or something. You know? They just, like I said, strip you completely from downstairs. Starts downstairs till you get upstairs.
They're young. They're more often black or brown. They don't have much money, and they have children they must take care of. These are the women behind bars. Around the country every year, there are about 80,000 of them. When they arrive as newcomers, they are called fish.
Stand up and face. Open your mouth wide. You slip your shoes off and show me the bottom of your feet. Okay?
I don't think they look at us as humans, you know, we're just fish to them. And that's the way they treat us, just like you scale a fish, they scale us.
Step inside the shower, please. Face me. Open your mouth wide. Turn around. Show me the bottoms of your feet, one at a time. Okay, I want you to spread your legs. Okay, put your hands on your buttocks. Bend over and pull yourself apart. Okay, that's fine. Okay, take a quick shower. It's cold. Okay, here's your jail clothes. And the other one. Okay, turn around. Okay, go ahead and get dressed.
Even though I'm here, I'm still a woman, but they try to strip you of everything once you get here. It's something that I think a human being shouldn't have to go through. Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, you'll be in cell number 1, first cell right here. Okay, wait right up here and I'll give you a little scan.
Although many women are in for some kind of violent crime, the majority of women are there for crimes such as larceny, drug violations, forgery, fraud, and even for prostitution and drunkenness.
It's like, you know, I know, you know, like society says you have to pay for what you do and all this, Well, I've accepted that because, I'm living this type of life that evidence, eventually I'm going to get busted, so I know I'm going to come to jail. So that's bad enough in itself, being seen and handcuffed, and all this jazz coming, Once you get here, after you go through the process of them finger playing in your hair and digging in your nose and looking in your eyes and ears and, looking up your ass and everything, that takes everything.
Well-staffed, efficient, modern, this is Los Angeles County Jail for Women. This is a jail planner's dream. It is all run from a central control room. The officer there can tell at a glance which gate is open and where. She can direct prisoner traffic with buttons and loudspeakers. 24 hours a day, someone is there. The prisoner's day begins at 5:30.
Morning, ladies. It's time to get up. Believe it or not. Deborah Radley, if you need a bag for your property, step up front. Pat Allen, you're going to LCMC this morning at 7:30.
You get up, you wash. Showers aren't allowed in the morning.
Can we have some toilet paper?
Every day, someone has to ask the matron for toilet paper.
Ruth, get your feet on the floor. Bubby King. Carol Corner. Annette Wurlitz. Faye Gray. Betty Evans.
Letters from home, from children, from boyfriends, from families. They're welcome, but they're reminders of where you are.
Somebody check their mail, make sure you didn't get Terry Walker's. Yeah, sure.
A mother can't help if her child is having trouble at school. A woman can't see her man that weekend. Perhaps the worst part about jail is feeling that distance.
7100 line up to 2 Central 3 to the dining room. 7100 to the dining room.
Okay, ladies, start your line.
The day has begun. You've gotten up, received your assignments. You will now go to breakfast. Everything has a schedule. Everything has been decided for you. You will have 15 minutes to eat breakfast, then you will line up again and begin your job.
Document. A study done by the Yale Law Journal found that there are fewer job training programs for women than for men. The study found that the average number of job training programs in male prisons is 10.2, while the average number in female prisons is 2.7.
It's a job. It's a J-O-B. They want you to believe it's a position, but it's not. The institution itself is run by broom, mop, and dexterity. If you don't have the dexterity, you must get the broom or the mop.
Is this training for skill?
No. Mr. Joe?
The jobs that rehabilitate, that are supposed to help a woman support herself, are more often than not low-paying, low-skilled, service-oriented woman's work. Sewing, cleaning, doing laundry, factory labor.
Do you do this every day? Every day.
This rehabilitation? This rehabilitation?
Rehabilitation? I don't know what they call it, you know. I just call it a job. Do a job, leave, you know.
You're cutting, you're sewing, you're clipping, you're hanging, you're folding, whatever the case may be, it's still factory. Many of us have never worked in a factory. Many of us will never work in a factory when we go out.
Women do the tedious work, but they also do hard work. They lift 50-pound sacks of potatoes. They cart meat and milk shipments around. Their work keeps the prisons going.
In the morning, ourselves, the three of us get about 1,400 pounds of clothes done before lunch. And that's a lot of clothes, a lot.
Much of the work doesn't pay very well. One prison pays as much as $4 a day. Many pay about 5 cents a day. A woman can work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, and still not make enough to buy a carton of cigarettes. In Los Angeles, the women don't make any money, except for a few lucky ones. They do special jobs, the jobs for the officers.
The blouses, you get 5 cents a blouse, and officers' pants and shirts, they pay 8 cents for the pants and 8 cents for the jacket.
All the shirts and pants she can iron add up to $5 a week. There is some practical training. High school equivalency degrees are offered, and sometimes computer key punch courses. But still, after 2, maybe 5 years of being locked up, few women leave prison trained for a good job.
They don't have anything up here to rehabilitate them except the school or IBM and this new course they have up there, business office. And they only pick so many out for this.
I think that one thing when we talk about vocation and education programs that are offered is that people forget to first look at the repertoire of the clients. And I think that the repertoire of the clients is so limited that necessarily the type of vocational training has to be at an entrance level to other areas. But despite what everybody says, in this society, the expectations for women, while I certainly think they're improving, that I think women are still pretty much expected to be, you know, in the kitchen and at home.
In the kitchen and at home. That's how society thinks, so that's what prison does.
Ms. Renner? Yeah. Why are the gates down?
It's to prevent from the trustees talking to the servers. It's to prevent the inmates talking to the servers as they go through the line.
Getting to see the doctor is a daily routine. Some prisons have morning clinics, some jails have sick lines, but between the prisoner and the doctor, there is always the nurse. In Los Angeles, morning line serves 2 purposes, handing out medication and setting up doctor's appointments.
I want to see the doctor about,
Not today, Jimmy.
well, when can I see him? Because I got a bad, what's today?
who I am.
Yes, you may see the doctor, but more often, no, you may not. You have 30 seconds to argue your case. There's no examination. Then you move aside to let the next person try her luck. There is often a shortage, even a severe shortage of medical staff. There is no shortage of pills.
They have Miltown, Thorazine, and Milleril. I've been taking medication called Sinequin, and it's supposed to be a nerve medication, but it's just really to try and control your mind. It's more or less keep you walking around like a zombie, because it's the way it did me. You know, like I was so messed up with the Milleril, I have walked into a pole, and I've got a scar up here to prove it. And it didn't even hurt.
It didn't even hurt. That's what the officials want. That's what the women want. Take a pill and your stomach doesn't hurt. Take a pill, prison life itself doesn't hurt.
Would you tell me what kind of medication you're handing out?
Well, there's Sinequin and Valium and Mellaril and Elavil and Equagesics and Librium and Egrafon, Miltown, just a little bit of everything.
Most of those names that you mentioned are what kind of...
The majority are nerve. They're what Dr. Leslie orders. They're the pills the psychiatrist orders for them.
I see. Are most of them tranquilizers?
Well, of a sort, yes.
I don't
It just
understand.
kind of helps to keep them more relaxed and where you can handle them better.
Count time, all inmates prepare for count.
Count time, all inmates prepare for count. Count time, all inmates prepare for count. Count time, all inmates prepare for count.
One is closing.
Keeping track of the prisoners, tight security, traffic control. All these things make up the basic business of corrections.
Come on, Alma, get up and sit on the edge of your bed like everyone else. Okay, I want you facing the officer's station. I want you to take this time to straighten up your beds if they're messy. If you have something in your hand, set it down. Okay, when everyone's setting up facing the officer's station, put what you've got in your hands down.
Control. That's the name of the game, where a number is counted, not a person.
They really have us in here as dogs, you know? But they're wearing the badges. We're not. So we got to go along with it, you know? They're doing their job just the way they say it, you know? And that's why I say, in a cell, you're a dog to them. They're your master. When they say something, you best bark to it, you know, because...
You know, we can talk at the table, but we're not supposed to talk to people next to us, which I wasn't talking to nobody, but I was looking. And she didn't like that, so she put me out of the line, which is embarrassing, you know. And everybody looking and want to know, what are you doing there? You know, and I'm sitting up in the day room like some fool by myself, you know. And when she came back, she gave me a little lecture, you know, like a little naughty kid. Don't do that no more.
You can't congregate. For instance, Forrest was standing down there talking the other day, laughing, talking. They wanted to know what we were congregating about, like we were going to jump somebody. that sort of thing. Just little petty things that you get on your nerves. And if you holler back, you're going to lock up. You don't dare holler back.
It makes you feel very immature because of the rules they have here. Do's and don'ts. You can't do this, you can't do that.
They want you to act like grown, mature women, but yet they treat you like children.
You're never right. You can never be right. The women can't go to the potty, as they say. You have to be on the potty list.
And you must say, Miss So-and-so, may I have my medication?
In the dining room, you're not supposed to sit with another cottage.
You have to have a pass to go to school. You have to have a pass to go up in the front.
No holding hands, walking down the line. No lollygagging, as they call it. No combing another woman's hair. Physical contact. You can't pluck another woman's eyebrows. You can't stand in another woman's door. You can't accidentally walk in the bathroom on a woman.
So they treat you like children, and when you begin to act like children, then they want to lock you up because first thing they'll say, well, that was childish. Don't you think that was rather childish?
I've never felt like this before in my life. It makes you feel bitter. They try to take everything away from you, but it only makes you cold inside and builds up a whole lot of hatred. It's just like having a pressure put down on you, that you can't get up off of, and sometimes when you lay down and go to sleep, you wish that you would never wake up the next morning so you wouldn't have to go through the same thing that you went through the day before.
If people are treated like children, I think, no question, maybe sometimes they are, but I think at times they behave like children. They don't behave like, whatever a mature adult is.
It's possible that you might violate some kind of a minor regulation here, and somebody might have to call it to your attention and scold you for it. But in general, it's not that easy to get into serious trouble. We have rules about behavior in the institution. Insofar as rules are concerned, they're in your packet, and they describe the kinds of behavior for which penalties can be exacted. And they're not very unusual.
Matron was sitting at the desk. I had an accident, I came on my monthly. I asked her, could I go to my room? So she insisted that I pull down my panties and let her see my soiled panties, and I wouldn't do it.
Anything that is out of the ordinary, you should challenge. It's part of your job to challenge why they're going or coming at a different time or why they're requesting. And she said it was personal reasons, but she refused to show proof. She would have been let back immediately if she had shown her proof that she needed to go to her room.
To me, it's a very private thing, to have to pull down your underclothes in front of somebody and you're sore and show it to them. I just didn't feel like I had to prove it. So she let me go to my room eventually, but told me that I was going to get a ticket and have to go to disciplinary for disobeying a direct order.
I think any normal person gets embarrassed about their private parts of their body. And it would be normal to be embarrassed about it.
But you insist upon that embarrassment.
This is the rule.
Step inside. Stand clear, the doors are closing.
When I hear that they're gonna close a door or something, my head just wants to bust. Just hearing that bang. They slam it so hard where it goes all through your system. Gives you chills all the way from your toes all the way up to your head.
But I think the worst punishment is the inactivity. They could let us out in the yard for a few minutes. You know, they got enough security to take us out in the sunshine. We never see what the light of day is. We don't know what the weather is unless we look up there at the window and see rain or see sun. And a lot of girls do as high as a year in here this way. You know, unless they want to work. Work to me is a privilege in here, because Jesus Christ, who wants to sit in a cell?
Well, laying in this cell here, you know, the only place you can look out is to the bars. You know, and that's it. You can see a window, it's right behind the bars. You know, and all you see is these bars, and I'll tell you what, I counted all these bars in this cell here, and there's 97 bars here in this cell. You know, and just say, all I say is, oh my God, I'm behind them.
I think you're escaping from reality. I know I am. You know, I don't like people. I don't trust people. I don't like this world. I don't like anything about it. All we're doing is waiting to die. You know, we die a little every day.
Did Daddy tell you that Mama sent some presents home?
Yeah.
Did he? You're gonna get two down Grandma's house.
The majority of women in prisons and jails are mothers. Usually children may visit if they don't live too far away, but the visiting hours are awkward and they're short.
Maybe she would be better off if she stayed with you, Lon. No.
20 minutes in Los Angeles, then it's time to be taken away. These babies will also be taken away. They were born while their mothers were serving time. After a few weeks, they will go to relatives, to foster homes, and sometimes they will go away for good. The mother will lose custody. The women are being punished, but so are the children.
My child, my baby, she doesn't even know me, you know, and it's really hurt, you know, it really hurts to have children to reject you and say, well, my mother's in the penitentiary. Well, I don't think she can tell me anything, you know. Eventually, this will come into their minds, you know, because it'll be put in there by other kids. Well, my mother ain't never been to the penitentiary. Okay, so my mother's been to the penitentiary, you know. Then she's gonna come home and say, hey, you've been in the penitentiary, you know. Different little things might upset her, you know, all through her childhood, and this is not good because you can cause a child to really lose what's up here. And it makes me feel like I want to lose what's up here because I know that I brought it, that since I'm here, it's going to reflect on them. They're going to really hate me, you know, I believe that. They're going to hate me. And I hate this, you know, I really feel bad.
Prisons are supposed to solve problems, not create them. but locks set up an abnormal world. A woman's mind, her sexuality, her needs are locked up, and problems of violence and frustration inevitably follow. This is solitary, the jail within a jail. A woman we spoke with would spend 30 days there. For what?
Threatening an officer.
What does it all do to your mind, sitting here, looking at the walls for...
Well, sometimes I feel like it's going to drive me slightly crazy, but I'm not going to let it, I hope. You know, I try to kind of keep myself together, but it's very rough being in here like this most of the time with no one to talk to. You know, nothing to look at but four walls and a book, and I've read so many books, I'm running out of books because they never change them. You know, I'd like to be able to at least see out of a window, get a breath of fresh air once in a while. Be treated like a human being, not like an animal in a cage. They told me I had to be kept back here because my behavior couldn't be controlled any other way. Yet on my record, I have never hit anyone, I have never fought anyone, I have never attacked anyone. I've never tried to hurt myself. You know, so what's to be controlled? I'm a person, not a wild animal to be controlled and kept in a cage like this. You know, I have a very non-assaultive record, yet they say my behavior cannot be controlled, so I have to be kept back here for a large amount of time. I tried very hard to get a transfer at this institution. You know, because of the way they kept me locked down, I've been locked down altogether for almost 5 months. Between administrative segregation and back here. And back here you can't even get a cigarette, which may not sound like much when you can have them, but it's very hard to be back here, you know. You can get nothing, not even, you don't even have your dignity really back here. You know, simple human dignity and rights that I think every person should have, regardless of whether they're convict or doing time or what.
I thank you.
Thank you.
I'm known to go to 42 because I'm known as a homosexual. We are human beings and we are doing our own thing in life. You know, they haven't accepted the fact that yet. That everybody's doing their own thing. And women are women. And there aren't any men in here.
Women without men. That's hard to take day after day, just as it's hard to be without mothers and fathers and children. So women begin pretending. In prisons, women set up make-believe families, with brothers, sisters, even down to aunts and uncles. The families provide friendship, warmth, sometimes sex, but mainly just someone to lean on.
Well, the women here have families. They are consisting of brothers, sisters, maybe husbands, you know, mother. Someone you can really talk to, because you can't really talk to the officials here. The families also consist of children. You know, you might have a child that you really like, that you want to help if you can, without being caught. And if you have a problem, you can go to your mom and say, Mom, I got to talk to you. Or you can go to your girlfriend and say, hey, I want to talk to you for a minute. You know, it's important. But the families here have sex because we don't have anything else, you know, really to occupy our mind. But most of them, as soon as they, you know, get ready to get cut loose, they're going back to the men out there on the street. But in here, it's something to pass the time, and to keep out of trouble, you talk to somebody and have somebody that you can really lean on.
Oh, I think you'll probably find all kinds of people here. And some of them may well suggest activities of this kind. It'll be a try-on from a good many people. If it's a kind of activity that doesn't, that you don't want any part of, just say so.
The homosexuality here is maybe 80 to 85%. Half the girls are girls and half the girls are boys, you know. The stronger ones take the weaker ones and they become as one together here on the reservation. If someone takes a liking to someone and they don't want to go along with their whatever, if something like this happens, that's what happened to me. I was trying to explain to the girl for 10 days before this happened that I didn't want to go along with her sexual advances and that I only wanted to be friends with her. And when she felt as though there was nothing more to be said in the conversation and she couldn't entice me any longer, she let me have it a few times.
How often does that kind of thing happen?
Well, it happens more frequently than we'd like to admit, but I would say actual attacks maybe on the average of 2 or 3 a month. Anytime you're into a situation where emotions or feelings are involved, we're in an environment where those feelings are going to be intensified. Any feeling is intensified here. And when people experience rejection, they respond many different ways. One response is hostility, and they strike out at that which has rejected them. Not as free here to see remove themselves from the situation. You know, it's an intensified, it's a closed system.
I told Dr. Reams that I didn't go to the rec except maybe once in a while. And he said, "Why don't you go? Why don't you go?" I said, "Because there's just too much going on there." He said, "Well, obviously you must have a psychological problem that you don't want to mix with people." It's not that I don't want to mix with people, but there's no such thing as a friend in prison.
What kinds of dangers are you now, being exposed to, do you think? Or could you be exposed to if you walked around the campus?
Well, a lot of the girls are armed on the reservation here. They, as you know, we can buy razors on commissary. They put them inside of toothbrushes so they have something with a handle on them. They steal scissors and surgical shears from the hospitals, and they carry these things around with them also. They take butter knives from the dining room and file them down and work on them until they have an actual shiv or blade to carry around, which is a very dangerous weapon.
Have you been armed?
No, never.
Are you going to be?
I've been thinking about it.
These women, are they alone? Are they in groups? What kinds of dangers do they pose?
Well, now the girl that did this to me is from a big town in Texas. Now she has a lot of homies here. A homie is someone who comes from who is from your state and from your hometown. These girls usually stick together. And in fact, they always stick together. In fact, we had an incident here a while back where New Orleans was against Dallas, Texas, and they beat up upon girls that had absolutely nothing to do with even the crowd, just because they were from this particular state. And from what I understand from the talk of the reservation and a roommate back in my cottage who's come to speak to me through the window here, she said there is a lot, some talk going on the reservation that Fort Worth is a little bit aggravated at me, and they feel as though if I go back on the reservation, they want to put me back in the hospital.
Well, I think that the environment is difficult to adjust to because it's abnormal. Number one, a person's freedom is inhibited. And in my thinking and my theory of personality, freedom is a primal thrust. And I think when you inhibit it, you're going to create problems just to begin with.
Right now, many communities are deciding whether to replace their old prisoner jail with a shiny new one or to develop some alternative. The National Advisory Commission on Criminal Justice Standards and Goals objects to bricks and mortar. Instead of locking ourselves into a system for the next 50 years that has failed us so in the past, the Commission calls for a 10-year moratorium on construction. New construction, however, still has its proponents.
I maintain that a 10-year moratorium on the construction of prisons will do nothing more than make antiquated prisons, which are one of the great problems right now, more antiquated than ever. So that I think that they should immediately begin construction on new prisons and not try to utilize those antiquated facilities that are causing so much of the trouble.
Well, when we're out giving speeches, I think we need to a certain extent to make ourselves feel somewhat valuable and successful and important. And a lot of times we talk a great deal about our programs and some of the things we're doing, and we fail to add at the end of that despite what we're doing, we're not very successful.
History does show that we have been a failure in the operation of our prisons. But then again, you must remember the philosophy, the proper philosophy of prisons. Prisons are for the purpose of isolating the criminal and the antisocial person from society, to protect society from them. I haven't heard of many people committing burglaries while they're in prison. I haven't heard of many people committing robberies while they're in prison. Of course, there is some smuggling of narcotics in institutions, and of course, a murder or so occurs while someone is in prison against another inmate or maybe one of the guards, but they aren't out killing the innocent people as they are when they're loose or free or on probation or on parole.
I think a lot of people are afraid of prisoners because they think only of the violent aspect of what they've done, because that's what gets publicity. Somebody forging a check or evading income tax does not make the front page, but somebody who commits a murder, that makes the front page and people know about it. But most people who I have known in prison are not violent, and I would not be concerned about living next door to them as a neighbor myself.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if we had no institutions, no jails, if we didn't have to have them? But what would we have in the place of them under the present conditions? There's no substitute for it. What substitute do you have? Give me one.
No place else to sit.
No place in the whole house to sit but here, is there? No place else.
Mommy's lap, though.
It's a good thing you're not big.
In Des Moines, Iowa, there is an alternative. We spent the day with this woman, we shall call her Mary, who recently was convicted of manslaughter for killing her husband. Many women are in prison for this kind of crime.
He came home extremely drunk one night and in bad temper, and came in the room where I was sleeping with a gun in his hand, and it just seems like within a few seconds it was all over, and it was him that was wounded, and I called the authorities and they called the ambulance and everything, but it was too late.
Mary spent less than 12 hours in jail. She did not lose custody of her children. Des Moines has an alternative to locking women up, a program that will soon go statewide. Under the program, a woman may live in a halfway house under close supervision, or, like Mary, she may immediately return to the job of raising her children.
It works because women are permitted to be at home in their home communities where they've had their problems which got them into trouble in the first place. They can continue to work, they can go to school if that's what they need, they can remain with their children or with their husbands. The most important thing is that they're not exposed to the brutalizing and dehumanizing aspects of life in jail and life in prisons. No reason why they should be confined. Society doesn't need it for their protection, and the only thing it does is degrades the women. We've demonstrated it here, we've shown it here, with all kinds and any kinds of offenses. It does work.
Document. According to the Department of Court Services for the 5th Judicial District of Iowa,
If Mary had gone to prison for 3 years, it would have cost the taxpayer $24,000. Under the new program, however, 3 years of community supervision will cost $2,000. With Mary continuing to work, she'll pay taxes of about $3,000. By not sending Mary to prison, the taxpayers will save $25,000.
Now this yours up. I would definitely say it worked in my case in favor of society, in favor of my children, in favor of myself, in favor of everybody. I can't think of anybody that would have gained anything at all by my being incarcerated.
For 200 years, we've been hearing the same things about prisons, correction, rehabilitation. But what does it all add up to? It adds up to bitterness when grown women are told to take down their underpants, to despair when women are locked in solitary confinement for weeks on end, to helplessness when all responsibilities are taken away. Without their families, without jobs, pressured by rules and discipline cells, these women come back to society frightened and angry. They commit more crimes, they go back to prison. Prisons do not correct. Prisons do not protect. In the end, they do one thing well, they punish well. But that punishment has a large price tag: the destruction of the women themselves, the creation of crime, and the dollar cost of up to $16,000 per year per woman. Even if you believe in punishment, it's simply not worth it. Crime among women is going up, and communities, cities, counties, and states are now making plans. Let's try to avoid the mistakes of the past. We should confine only the very dangerous. The rest should be supervised in their communities, kept with their children, and helped to find good jobs. We should stop building new prisons. We have enough now. We should and we can get women out of prison.
Right now I'm worried, you know. I'm worried because I done did this time, and I got to go. But to what? I don't know what to go to. I got to go, but I don't know to what. You know, like for instance, seem like they should fix it where I could have some kind of job to go to, or go to somebody that can give me a lift until I get on my feet, you know. But it's just like this here. They feel, the officials here, they feel, well, you done did your time. Go. You know, that's it. Go. But I'm wondering where to go. I was locked up, and they didn't do nothing for me, and I couldn't do nothing for myself. It's just like a dog on a string. I couldn't get nowhere. But now that I'm free, I take care of myself. I don't need them to do it for me. I tell you the truth, it's made me bitter. I'm a human being, but they have made me feel like some kind of beast. When I drive out of here, my mind will still be back here. I'll be thinking about back here. Just thinking about some of the women that's back here. If there was one thing I wanted to tell them, good luck. That's all I could tell them.
This has been a presentation of ABC News.